Hello there. Let's find out how to determine the right load when it comes to this extremely useful training tool. Okay, coaches often discuss about correct sled loading when it comes to the horizontal power development, at least. First and foremost, you can use this training tool for both strength and power development. First, let's see why I like using prowler sled work during the strength development phase as well, besides some basic drills, of course. There are three main reasons. The first one, horizontal strength. This is important because it's more specific compared to the strictly vertical lifts, like squatting, for example. Sled work is actually a mix of vertical and horizontal work, which is exactly what athletes need when it comes to acceleration and change of direction abilities. Remember that we are not talking about vertical jump now. And of course, this is one of very few power drills that can be safely used for strength development as well, which is priceless, especially because exercise technique will remain the same. Number two, strength is the foundation of power. I highly recommend doing this kind of movement for strength development because you'll be better prepared once you start using sleds for power development, because it's the same movement pattern. Long story short, this way you will strengthen all the active and passive structures properly and in the specific angle, which is precondition for good power development. So, before starting sled power development, make sure your strength is on a decent level when it comes to the same movement pattern, horizontal strength with the sled push variation. By the way, injury reduction is big deal here as well, and proper strength training definitely rules. And make sure that strength of leg musculature is good in general. Number three, feet positioning. So don't forget the same feet positioning as while playing many sports, which is great for strengthening plantar, both active and passive tissue, and overall foot stability. We know that foot stability is one of the most important things in running sports. Without proper feet stability, we cannot reach max strength, speed, nor agility potential. Now, let's finish the strength story first. When it comes to this exercise, one way to determine if your athletes are relatively strong is if male athletes can sled push 4 times their body weight or more for 10 yards. Female athletes should be able to push 3.5 times their body weight or more for 10 yards. So this is the goal each athlete needs to reach in order to be able to work on serious, injury-free sled power development. Of course, we can start with, for example, 2 times body weight and gradually increase load 5 to 10% each week using progressive overload principles. It all depends on your goals, available time, and fitness level. Moves need to be slower because we are building strength, and we can use 10 yards or number of reps. If we choose number of reps, do from 6 to 8 reps per set, 3 to 6 sets per training. Okay, now let's talk about finding the right load for power development. Again, we are talking about horizontal power development. We have two options now. The first one, sled push, and the second one, sled resisted option. Sled resisted is a more specific but a bit less stable option, which could mess technique a bit. So be careful and don't let speed to decline more than 10 to 15% of your max speed, which you can check with a speed gun, for example. When it comes to sled push variation, the one I prefer more, long story short, the load that responds to 150% of your best 10 yards time is the right load for the sled work when we are talking about the horizontal power development for running sports. There is one really good new research showing this. Again, this variation is great because it's running specific, single leg work, and it produces better, more specific horizontal power outcomes when it comes to acceleration compared to any double or single leg squat, deadlift, or jump variation. Not to mention it's more lower back friendly at least. As you become more powerful and accelerate faster, you'll be able to put more load, adjust the load and the time accordingly. Progressive overload principle up to a certain point. So we manipulate load based on the time. Let's say your best 10 yards time is 1.5 seconds. So 1.5 times 1.50 equals 2.25 seconds, which means you need to adjust load so your athlete runs 10 yards in 2.25 seconds. If she runs in 2 seconds, the load is too light. If she runs in 3 seconds, the load is too heavy. Other than that, when athletes see numbers, they start competing and giving their best in order to beat numbers and other athletes, which means better power outcomes, thanks to better motivation first and foremost. For example, let's see if you can reach the same speed with 15 pounds more, or you need to run the distance in 2.25 seconds or less. When it comes to the rest time between reps, this is the right work-rest ratio. It doesn't need to be 1 minute plus long. Deterioration is minimal, and time management is something that matters more in this case. Of course, you can always take a longer rest according to your goals and overall fitness level. For example, if you have poor aerobic capacity, you will most probably need more rest. And yes, don't forget to actually sprint and do some specific plyometric work as well, as those will give you even more specific power, speed development, as well as injury reduction. You can even make some smart combos as well. Don't forget that both traditional strength training and sled power work are way more important for improving acceleration and deceleration abilities, which is crucial in so many sports. It will probably not help with increasing speed, but that's for another topic. Last but not least, this type of exercise can be done very often. Sled work is pretty much devoid of an eccentric load. As such, the amount of muscle damage created is very low. That means you can recover quickly. Plus, doing solely faster concentric contraction is an excellent fast twitch fibers recovery tool as well. So you can use this exercise the day after game, but not as a power development, which means we should avoid typical acceleration pattern with max speed. As we already said, using this as a recovery tool is great because there is no eccentric part. Read muscle damage. And in order to recover needed fast twitch fibers, we need to shortly activate them, avoiding eccentric contraction. But more on this next time. Thanks for listening. If you have any question, feel free to contact me. Or you can check my website for more info.